Today we're going to talk about hair. I'm going to walk you through some of the most common questions I get about hair. I'm going to take you through the Primo and the different grades of the same type of hair. We're going to go through everything basically that we sell in the shop. But most important, I'm going to try to field the questions of why you might use one hair over another hair and the differences between them. So I'm going to start up here with the Primo hair. As you can see, it comes in a ton of colors. It comes in every color from black to bleached. What it does not come in is white. You cannot, belly hair is what white hair comes from. When you've got the really white hair, it has to be off the belly, and there's simply not enough of it to render a large Primo strip like this. And it's really probably one of the biggest questions we get in the shop is why can't I get that, big piece of white? And it's simple, it's just there's not enough of it. And to the size of this, they used to say it was a certain size, like 12 by 2.5, I think is what it was. And it's really not consistent at all. And we don't have any control over that. We buy this all from the same companies. And so you can see right here, these are the same pieces, the same color, of Primo. And they're different sizes. That's just random. This is a natural product. It's not synthetic, so it's not like you can, cookie cutter this stuff. They try pretty hard to get it close. Generally speaking, it's 12 to 2.5. But I want to touch on the fact that it's called Primo, which is not indicative of being premium deer hair. It generally is. We tend to select this stuff for as close as we can get it. If you call in, we always, if you tell me I'm doing a size 8, this or that, or 6 or 2 or whatever, we do our best to hand select it. But premium is not what it is. It's Primo. It's all good hair for the most part. You got to hand select any of it. But it's Primo. It's the name of it. It does not mean that it's all premium unless you hand select it. And that's what we're going to go into next. But again, it's usually 12 to 2.5, 12 by 2.5, gives you a lot of hair. Generally speaking, this is hair that you're going to use for like collars and heads on just normal size streamers, like a sex dungeon, a zoo cougar, any of the flies that use, hair heads. Generally speaking, 1.5 to 2 inches, really pretty consistent on their colors overall. Some of the shades you get problems with, and you start going from like sculpin olive to dark olive or something like that. Again, it's a natural product. When you dye something, it's different every time because every hair is a different color. A deer can be two different, they can live in the same field and they can be two different colored animals. And so you don't always get exact colors. So, Primo strips here, like I said, a lot of colors, bleached all the way up to black, but not white. So then we step into the spinning deer hair. All right, spinning deer hair is, and all of this hair, the spinning and the other ones we're going to go through, this is basically all from the same company. This is a friend of ours up in Idaho, Joel and his wife Julie, that do this hair. This guy is a freak of nature. He will not let something out unless it's perfect. He's the best I've ever seen at this. And he has a selecting process, and that's basically what we're going to show you here. I asked Joel once why he couldn't give me this hair in a bigger piece like this, and his answer was simple. Because there's not that much of it to give you this perfect stuff selected. And so basically, what you get is you go from Primo down to spinning deer hair, but you don't get the giant pieces. So basically what he does is he'll take this piece of hair and he'll find the absolute best piece out of that 12-inch piece. These are, what are they, 3 by 4?
3 by 4.
3 by 4s. He'll take a 4-inch long piece of that, of the larger chunks, and he'll select these out. So when you get into spinning deer hair, it's essentially the same as Primo, given that you have, that this was a good piece. It's basically the same thing, basically the same length, basically the same diameter, so you're still in your average, you know, kind of your average streamer. Again, this is basically for collars and heads, but you're going to get less of it, but you're going to get absolutely perfect hair. This is the hair that you don't really need to hand select because it's all been selected for us. So when you go into this Primo stuff, this is where you can say, you know, really quality stuff. You're going to have, again, it comes in all the colors. It comes in white all the way through. Now this one you can have short, or you can have white hair because it's a shorter piece. So when you get into the belly hair, you can get true white, but you're not going to get a 12-inch chunk of this stuff. This is incredible hair for anything. I don't care what fly you're going to do. Again, every color about the same length, say 1.5 to 2 inches. So from the spinning hair, we go into the stimulator hair. And the stimulator hair is a step up from the spinning hair. This is, again, it's been refined one more time. And so now what you're going to get is a little bit shorter hair. When it says stimulator, what he's saying is that it's made for stimulator wings, is kind of that size of fly. But you can see right here that this hair is just slightly shorter. It's got an incredible bar, and you can look at any of my other videos about grading the hair, but that bar tells you the consistency of that bar being straight across, and it's all the same length. That's critical. This is an earlier season harvest deer. That means that this hair is all identical. You can see over here on the spinning hair, which is a little bit longer, more for heads. Now we're starting to step into a hair that is about, it's just usually just a little bit thinner in diameter. And the diameter is kind of important for things when you start looking at, if you're going to spin a head for like a zoo cougar. The thicker the hair is, the less you need of it to make that nice big bulk and trim out well. If you're doing a wing, you want more skinny hair and more of it because it floats your fly better, more flotation. I mean, that's just one aspect. But it's the consistency. So here we have, I'm gone into the stimulator hair. Not as many colors in this because it's really not designed to be done for more than wings, and a little bit for bodies. Again, this is another good hair for bodies because it's very consistent. You got a beautiful break right here. Lots of wrinkle in the hair, which tells you the wrinkle in the hair tells you there's air, it's hollow and it's trapping air. Super consistent, not necessarily great for starting to tie bigger heads and stuff like that. Gonna tie a mini dungeon, you're gonna tie something small. This is a good hair for it, really consistent. But again, this is starting to shorten up a little bit. Now we're into the 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches at most. But incredible hair, great for body work. Okay, then you step into the Comparadun hair. Comparadun hair, this is the #1 question in this shop as far as tying wings and things like that. And it gets, and I'm going to do more of these, and we're going to show how to use these particular hairs for particular applications. But short, fine hair, that's what all of this wall right here is. This is, this is stuff that I buy myself, and we hand select so we have a little bit more control over the colors and the things like that. But what you're going to see here is in this, on the short fine, this is where you start getting into almost exclusively wing material. And in particular, the question that we get asked so often is because of the name of the fly, is the elk hair caddis. And how do I can't find any elk hair that floats, and it's too short, or too long, excuse me. And I really don't know the answer to this. I've never been able to find out why Altroth invented the elk hair caddis, and he used elk on it at some point. And I'm going to get to the elk in a second, but I personally don't think there's a reason ever to use anything on any wing on a fly, say size 12 or smaller, why you would use anything except white-tailed deer hair. There used to be coastal hair, and again, coastal hair just means it's in a warmer environment, that hair doesn't get as long, it's on the coast, on the west coast. I never really saw it to be better. I saw it to be less consistent, there's less of it. what you're looking for with this hair is the same thing you always do, a nice clean break. And I'm going to re-emphasize this because, and I've done it in several videos, but that line that you see right there, that dark line, everything from that dark line up is not hollow. You cannot flare hair and make a pretty little wing like an Kheir Caddis or a Comparadun. You cannot flare that hair up unless it's hollow. And so everything from here up is not hollow. Everything from here down is. It's just a micro shot of this stuff. And so when you start looking at wing material, we've got it listed here as Comparadun hair. That's how Joel, Nature Spirit, does it. And we do the same. We just call it Comparadun hair too. But it's the consistency you get with this hair. It's all the same length, same color, nice flare. You're not working with tip hair, and I'm going to get to this in a second on the elk hair, but, well, I'm going to do that last, and I'll show you again on that. But the difference is above this, above that line right there, if you try to stack or try to flare that hair up, it basically lays out, and then you start wrapping stuff in front of it, trying to stand the wings up, and they always look really sparse, and it just really never comes together. So anything that's going to be wing, anything that's going to be an Kheir Caddis wing, any sort of parachute wings, I mean, most people use harder hair for parachute. I personally like this. Any Comparadun, we're going to go to the Comparadun style hair. Next, we're going to go into the deer belly hair. And I kind of covered this with the Primo. But when you start looking at your bright colors, when you start looking at anything bright that you're going to spin, and really belly hair is pretty much exclusive to spinning. I mean, there's a few applications, but for the most part, any type of bass bug, I mean, anything that you're going to see these vibrant colors is going to be deer belly. And I've got some pieces out here, and I'm going to walk you through a couple things about deer belly. First of all, it's always really good and hollow. You don't really have to grate it so much because it's a small piece and it's usually pretty good. But you can see here, I start with chartreuse down here and go through all the way to black. There's white. There's every color under the sun. But what you have to realize is that they do not use this stuff. They do not bleach it and then dye it. And so that's why, if they could do that, if they could bleach over the hair and dye it, you could get much bigger pieces. But when you buy belly hair, you will frequently see these little pieces like this that are, frequently they'll be twisted, they'll have a little kink in them like that. It's because they're trying to render every inch of this hair. They don't have much. It's not like the whole deer's white, only their belly's white. And so they start with a completely piece of white hair and they dye it in these other colors. When you try to dye over bleach, I'm going to show you a perfect example right here. This is hair that was probably bleached. It was belly bleached, and this was just gray over here. This hair probably was just barely off shade, and they bleached it and tried to dye it. And what you're seeing is that it didn't take. It's not dyeing this stuff. So this is what happens if you try to dye over a bleached hair, like this is bleached hair right here. So that's what you're seeing, is that color on the side, that shows through. You're not getting those super vibrant colors. And again, that's why you don't have the giant chunks of this stuff. I get that question quite a bit. You know, why can't I get a Primo strip in chartreuse or red or something like that? Because you have to have a belly strip. So that's pretty much everything on the whitetail. Now I'm going to go into a really frequently, on the tying blogs, you see this a lot. Why elk hair, not whitetail? And so I'm going to show you some things about elk hair. Generally speaking, you work with cow elk. Whenever you're working with this stuff, it's a little bit more consistent, generally a little shorter, a little lighter color. Not necessarily. On the sides, they actually the bulls are actually lighter, but this stuff is more consistent in the cow. All right, cow elk is generally what's associated with spinning hair, and I'm going to walk you through You can see right here it says spin. Well, you probably can't see that. This is cow spinning or spinning cow elk. And this has grades just like everything else. And your grading process is the same no matter what. It's basically just telling you the length of the hair and the consistency of the length. So some of it's not, 2 inches long, and right beside it, it's not 4 inches long like you get when you get on manes and stuff like that. So cow spinning elk, I love this stuff for bigger flies. Cow spinning elk is just slightly coarser than most whitetail. It still spins pretty well. It's a little thicker in diameter. So the hairs are just a little bit thicker. Not much, almost imperceivable. But it's almost always a ½ inch longer than the other stuff. You can see it. So it's right here. It's just maybe a ½ inch longer. But it's super consistent. That's one nice thing about the cow elk. It's slightly longer, but it's really consistent. Great for bigger flies. It floats well. It's hollow, like I said. It's a little thicker. You pack it hard. It's good. You don't generally see this stuff so much in size like, a zoo cougar would be right at the limit. That's, just a little bit too short, because what you're going to see, and we'll do a close-up on this, is there's barely a break in this. But if you look right here in the break in that hair, from here up it's not hollow, and you look at that and it's generally about a ½ to 3/4 of an inch. That makes it right on the edge for your smaller collars. But it's super consistent and you get a lot of hair in it. Then you step into the Kheir cow. Well, actually, before I go into the Kheir cow, Kheir cows, never mind. That might be a game I used to play. So this is premium yearling elk. You've got Kheir done elk and yearling elk. And all this is doing is just telling you how long the stuff is. It's not that it's generally when you get shorter hair like this, when you get into the premium yearling stuff, the tips are a little bit, I'm not going to pull it out because it's just the same thing we we're just talking about, a little bit shorter. Everything gets shorter in the hair. So the hairs now, instead of being 2 inches long, maybe 2.5, now you got hair that's 1.5 inches. You're getting closer to your whitetail, but you don't have the diameter that you do in the whitetail. This stuff, for me personally, is great for small streamers. I don't like it for elk or for caddis or anything like that, because again, the tip's just a little bit too long. And then you go into the yearling, the early season stuff, and again, it's shortening up. And the Kheir, and it's the same thing basically. The Kheir done size elk, and it's supposed to be the same thing, shortening it up, getting it closer to whitetail. For me, and I use this stuff. I use this yearling and the Kheir elk a lot for my wings on my bigger mayflies. I love this stuff. It is super tough. This stuff is. It's tougher than whitetail. As far as like, I'll do a Kheir done, like a green drake size fly with this stuff, or my Troutsman drake. I use this stuff for the parachute. Absolutely bulletproof. Incredible hair. I don't use it on my flies smaller than 14. So basically, what I've walked you through is just what you might use this stuff for. The one thing I want people to be real aware of is, just because we call an elk hair caddis an elk hair, I still would rather use whitetail on an elk hair or any Kheir done, period. So that's a long-winded way around the barn on how to select your hair for what you're using. I hope that helped you out.